See history.
Hi, everybody. This is Jerry the King Lawler. That's right, WWE Hall of Famer.
This is Jeff Damon from Deadliest Warrior on Spike TV.
You have tuned in and are now live listening to the three-time NWA Heavyweight Champion of the World, Scrapper and Pierce. And just like you, I am also locked in. And, brother, we are beyond ringside.
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, liftoff.
Ladies and gentlemen, want to welcome everybody into a very special edition of your home for wrestling mixed martial arts sports talk. This is Beyond Ringside. The Magic City Motor Mouth, Fast Eddie Layne, live in the vault in the Full Range Entertainment Studios in beautiful Birmingham, Alabama, being joined for this special roundtable discussion by very special guests. Multi-time National Wrestling Alliance Women's World Champion, Tasha Simone, come on board.
Peace, love, and pain. Peace. I hope that everybody is excited about this interview because I guarantee you I am.
And ladies and gentlemen, I would like to bring in a man whose name goes a ways back in the world of professional wrestling. And I will say pro wrestling 7 days a week, not that other three-syllable curse word. We don't talk about fourth entertainment. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. R. Bruce Tharpe, right here on Beyond Ringside. Welcome in, sir.
Eddie, thank you so much for inviting me. It's a pleasure to be here.
You are a man of many hats. Full-time attorney. You have direct ties to a number of different professional wrestling promotions. And now, you are the Chief Executive Officer for the National Wrestling Alliance. Am I correct, sir?
That is correct.
If I may, before we move into that realm, I'm sure there are a lot of people, there have been press releases made, especially over the last few days, from the time of this taping on September 3rd, 2012. And they have a chance to find out some of what's going on. And they have a chance to find out a little about you personally. But I don't think a lot of people have found out exactly how deep you do run in the world of professional wrestling. You're actually second generation, am I correct?
That is correct. You do very good research, sir.
I do believe that you have ties to the Sunshine State of Florida during the Eddie Graham era.
Sure. I'll cut to the chase and fill you in briefly. I was born in the business, in the wrestling business. My father was Chet Tharpe, very long-time associate of Eddie Graham, was his ring announcer for many, many years. And so I was pretty much born in the wrestling business. Some of my earliest memories as a baby, little boy, 2 and 3 years old, is going to the wrestling matches with my dad when he was sitting at ringside doing the announcing. I remember vivid memory as a kid. We all have these vivid memories as a kid. One of my favorite memories was when my dad used to let me ring the bell. And I would ring the wrestling bell, at ringside and in the car on the way home. I thought that was pretty cool. So I was born in the wrestling business, and in the 60s, I was born in the early 60s. So a lot of my father's friends were wrestlers of that era who knew me when I was growing up, like Lou Fez and Jack Briscoe, who's a longtime family friend of ours, who I miss tremendously. Joe Scarpa, before he became Chief Jay Strongbow.
Right.
Was a very popular scientific wrestler in Florida at that time, and we recently lost him. But Sam Steamboat, Don Curtis, Hiro Matsuda, Duke Yamuka, of course Jack and Jerry Briscoe, the Great Malenko. All of these stars of the 60s were friends of my father, who I can remember being around when I was a little kid. So that was kind of an interesting way to grow up.
It's almost like being indoctrinated by proxy, right?
Well, sort of, until I actually got into the business myself, and then I really became indoctrinated. Once you go on the road with the wrestlers, there's a certain initiation that you got to pass, and I went through that rite of passage. I can guarantee you that as well. So, I don't know if you'd want to put that on my resume, but
now,
but that was, and that, in fact, that was before I went to law school. I was in the wrestling business, Eddie, before I became an attorney. I've been a practicing attorney now about actually over 24 years, and now I'm back into the wrestling business. But wrestling is something that's kind of difficult to get out of your blood.
Amen.
Especially when you're born into it, but once you experience what it's like to be inside that ring and being on the road and producing television and things like that, it's very difficult to get out of your blood. I worked full time. When I actually got into business, I was just graduating from high school, actually, in Tampa, Florida, and was invited to work in the wrestling office alongside Duke Yamuka, who was a very famous heel back in the day. In fact, I think he still holds the record for selling out the Sam Houston Coliseum, the most consecutive times. But I got to work in the wrestling office with him while I was in undergraduate school, and then when I decided to go to law school, I retired from wrestling, and the boys gave me a nice little send-off party and everything, and I think I made it about 2 weeks before I was knocking on Paul Bosch's door in Houston looking for a job, because it's just interesting. Once you start doing wrestling, it gets in your blood, and it's hard to get out of it, and I've been an attorney now 24 years, and here I am. I'm back in wrestling again with the NWA, so I'm excited about that.
Now, I'm big on road stories, and I'm also big on rib stories or prank stories.
Wow.
From your early days in the business and as a kid in this business, being around it all, if you could recount two, one of each, the best rib that you've personally ever seen done. If you want to change the names to protect the guilty or the innocent, that's fine. And possibly also one of the better road stories that you've personally experienced from your early days in the business.
Okay. Well, I'll give you an example of each. One was a road story. And I was on the way back from Miami, Florida, with Bill Alfonso, and he and I were in the back seat of the rental car that we were in, and we had just picked up a pizza. We were sharing a pizza, and in the front seat of the vehicle, I think driving the car was Angelo Mosca Jr., and in the front passenger side was a Japanese wrestler by the name of Yoshiaki Yatsu.
Okay.
Former Olympic champion, shooter, phenomenal wrestler.
The great Yatsu, yes.
The great Yatsu, that's correct. And Bill Alfonso and I were in the back seat, and we were coming back from Miami across Alligator Alley, and it was probably, 11:30, 12 midnight. And as wrestlers would tend to do back in the day, we were exceeding the speed limit and flying, basically. And all of a sudden, Mosca goes, "What's that ahead of us?" And we looked, and we see in the middle of the road these two red eyes. They're staring at us as the car is flying towards it. Turns out it was a huge alligator. Big alligator. Well, when I say huge, I would say the alligator was probably 6 feet long. I mean, so they grow a lot bigger than 6 feet long, but this is about a 6-foot alligator.
Okay.
And Angelo Mosca hit that alligator going probably 95 miles an hour. And we turned around and looked through the rear window, and that poor alligator was flipping around and, flying up in the air, because the car was probably going 95 miles an hour, 90 miles an hour when he hit that alligator. Well, Fonzie says, "Back the car up. Let's get some boots."
Yep.
Let's get some boots and a belt made. And I'm like, well, okay, well, they backed the car up. Fonzie and I are sitting in the back seat, so the gator appeared to be dead. You know, it was motionless. So we picked up the alligator, opened up the trunk, and threw the gator in the trunk and took off down the road again. Headed back towards Tampa. And Fonzie and I are starting to eat our pizza again. About 10 or 15 minutes later, we hear from the trunk, clunk, thump. We're like, oh my goodness, this alligator is not dead. And we were waiting for this alligator to come chewing through the back seat, you know, the rest of the way back to Tampa. Needless to say, we got the gator back to Tampa, and the poor alligator's jaw was broken. Fonzie got the alligator back to his house and tied it by the tail, pulled it up into a tree, you know, and the gator finally died. And Fonzie was very lucky that he didn't get arrested because, you know, that's a federal offense.
Right.
You know, back in that day with, you know, killing an alligator like that. But it really was an accident. But that's one road story. Let's see. You know, some of these stories, it's going to be, you know, they're difficult, you know, for me to actually say. But here's a rib story that actually happened to me. And ribs are, I mean, back in the day, they were heavy. I mean, and if you couldn't take the rib, I mean, it would just get worse. I mean, you couldn't get mad, because if you got mad, you would give them satisfaction, you know, and you'd put them over basically for doing the rib. So you couldn't get mad, you couldn't react. You just have to get them back. That was
right.
You play your rib on thumb, and then that's to get them back. I remember the first time.
Get even.
That's right. You don't get mad, you get even. I remember the first time I ever refereed many, many years ago. I had a brand new pair of Jordache jeans, real nice pair of dress jeans that I had bought. You know, I was all excited about actually getting in the ring the first time myself and all that. So did my matches. I got back to the dressing room and went to put my jeans on, and one of the pant legs had been cut off above the knee.
Oh, man.
Yeah. I think it was Barry Windham that did that. I'm almost positive it was Barry Windham. But I had to just cut the other pant leg off and turn my brand new pair of Jordache jeans into a pair of shorts. But that's one of the things that happened to me. But a worse rib that happened to me that I will never forget was we were in a town like, it was someplace like West Palm Beach or Fort Lauderdale. And it was an arena where the dressing rooms were in the back, kind of behind the bleachers. And the babyface dressing room was on one side and the heels were on the other. And back in the day, the referees, part of their job was to carry the finishes back and forth. So you had to have a really good memory. You know, that was part of the job. Being a referee back then was carrying the finishes back and forth and delivering them correctly from the booker to the boys. You know, and the finish didn't come out right. And the boys said, "Well, that's not what the referee told me. You're in trouble." So you had to be able to remember. Anyway, I remember that I had refereed, I think, the first 3 matches, and it was during the intermission. And during the intermissions in these buildings, the fans would gather around the dressing room door and wait for the boys to come out to get a Coke, or sometimes they'd just come out to be nice, so they could pose for pictures and sign autographs and things like that. I mean, and literally in between the matches, there were hundreds of people just standing around waiting for the wrestlers to appear and walk through the crowd and through the aisle on the way to the ring. You know, back in the day, you didn't have all the pyro and the music, and just the drama of the wrestler walking through the crowd on the way to the ring was very dramatic in itself. But especially during intermissions, you know, you'd have families back there, you know, mothers with children, you know, waiting for the wrestlers to come out so they could take a picture and get an autograph. So I'm in the shower, and I'm naked, and I'm covered in soap, and I feel 4 hands grab me. And I know what's going to happen. They're dragging me towards the dressing room door, and I don't have a stitch of clothing on. And this was Jesse Barr and my good friend Rick Rude, who's no longer with us.
Right.
And these guys grabbed me, and I was covered with soap. And if you can imagine, like Sylvester the cat with his fingernails, he's trying to grab onto the wall and get a grip and just try to hold on. And here I am sliding along the walls, you know, with soap, not a stitch of clothes on. And yes, they sure did. They opened up that dressing room door and they tossed me right out. And there's a big crowd standing there, and I'm naked. And my first reaction was to shoulder that door and get that door open again and get back in the dressing room. Well, of course, they were standing there and they were holding the door shut. So, I mean, no matter how hard I hit that door with my shoulder, that door wasn't going to budge. With Jesse Barr and Rick Rude, putting all their weight into it. So all I could do was cover up the best way I could, run to the other dressing room, and the other referee went and got my bag for me and brought me my clothes. But that's a good rib story for you. Actually happened to me.
I think that's happened to a number of people in this business.
Oh,
I guess
yes,
it
it has.
Tradition, I guess. Well, I'm part of that club.
And if you manage to survive that, they don't mess with you for a little while. It's like, hey, we just yanked him outside and threw him in front of everybody, not wearing anything, and came through it like a champ. What can we do to get this guy? We'll pick somebody else.
Fun. That was a lot of fun. And those are memories. Those are memories that you will cherish, all of your life. To be quite honest, just the camaraderie of being on the road back in the day when the territories were still in existence. I mean, that back in the day, that's where your younger wrestlers really learned, was on the road with the older veterans.
Right.
Because you learned very early on, back in the day, to keep your mouth shut and your ears open.
Right.
And your eyes open. And you really didn't speak unless you were spoken to. And a lot of times the young guys like me, we did all the driving. So the veterans could talk and they could eat and they could relax and they could drink beer, whatever they wanted to do. But it was on those trips that you learned so much about the business and about the psychology of the business that is lost these days. Because unfortunately, you don't learn that type of thing in wrestling schools. So that's a lost art of the business. Is learning in the car from the veterans on the road, and wrestling every night.
Right.
When you wrestled 6-7 nights a week, sometimes twice on Sunday or twice on Saturday, I mean, you didn't get much of a vacation, but your life was the wrestling business. You ate, slept, drank, and wrestled, and that was your life. You'd get up in the morning, you'd go to the gym, you'd work out, have lunch, meet the boys, get on the road, get to the town, do the wrestling event. Back in the day, you'd buy a 6-pack of beer, put it on ice, head on home, get home 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, crash out, sleep late, get up, do it again the next day. It was a heck of a life.
Now, you lead me to a perfect question. For years, and I'm going to go ahead and longtime listeners to the show know that I'm going to say this eventually. I started training in 84, had my first match in 85. And when you were in a good area, when you had people in the office who knew what they were doing, knew how to put together credible storylines that everybody could really sink their teeth into and could have fun with, we were treated more as rock stars than anything else. And I've noticed the evolution or de-evolution of the way that a lot of us are looked at, and a lot are looked at on the national scale. What I call the MTFers. Monday, Thursday, Friday. They're looked at more as television stars, i.e. situation comedy or primetime tragedies, as opposed to rock stars. To a great degree. Would you agree with that simile?
I definitely would agree with that, and I just think it has a lot to do with the evolution of the business. You don't see as much wrestling these days on television as you do situational comedy. Not to say that hasn't been successful for others, but you just haven't seen as much wrestling as you've seen in the past, and I think it's attributable to that. One of the things that we've got a lot of goals with regard to the NWA, a lot of goals. One of which is, we have a vision for the presentation of a hard-hitting, athletic, credible, believable wrestling product. And we think that's going to make a difference when there's a different product out there for the market, for the market to absorb a different product, and one of the goals that we have for the NWA.
Now, there is a comparison in play.
Let me say something really quick, Eddie.
Come on in, Tasha.
I haven't really had the opportunity to talk to Bruce before tonight. Bruce, as a wrestler and as a representative of the NWA, I get to talk to fans in several different venues throughout the United States. And I also talk to them through social media online, and some of them have even emailed me. Wrestling fans, and wrestlers alike, really do want to see professional wrestling put back in the wrestling ring. And I am so happy to be a part of knowing that the NWA is going to put wrestling back in the wrestling ring because the fans want it.
Exactly. I mean, that's what it says on the marquee. We've heard that cliche so many times, Eddie. It says wrestling on the marquee. And that's what we want to present. We think that that's what people want to see. I mean, certainly we're not going to take it back to the days of wool tights, and headlocks that last for 20 minutes.
Right.
Obviously, we can't go back to the past, but I do think that there's a market for more credible, athletic contests, believable contests, and where the winner's share of the purse is larger than what the loser makes. So the audience understands why there are two wrestlers in there, and one of them wants to win. It's either because of an issue between the two of them, or it's because of a title that one of them wants to win, or because the winner of the match is going to make more money. But psychologically, the audience has got to understand why there are two people in the ring competing, one of them trying to pin the other's shoulders to the mat and give up.
Now, we bring up the word psychology, which is one of my favorite words as it pertains to the business. And the reason why I'm staying more or less focusing directly on your perspectives is because a lot of people are going to be able to see the directions you want to go by your personal and professional standpoints. And I'll bring this one into play. NWA versus WCW. For years, when the National Wrestling Alliance put their banner out, you knew that you will have wrestlers cutting promos in order to try to help build what's going on. Whereas opposed to and you will have solid action in the ring. The match may go 10 minutes, the match may go 2 minutes if it's supposed to be, enhancement match. Or it may go 25, 30 if it's a solid match that people are expecting to see a real, pure style contest inside the confines of the squared circle. Whereas with WCW, even though they were still technically for a while operating under the banner of the NWA, it was a WCW product where they would start doing the little character vignettes, and not necessarily vignettes, but skits, putting together promo packages like, remember the Rick Steiner, Robin Green thing, and that was being done at the same time in that WCW said, this is World Championship Wrestling, we wrestle. And then they do that. I mean, now, in a pure product, and this is something where a lot of people still, to this day, associate the term National Wrestling Alliance, the name and the brand of the National Wrestling Alliance, with the term grassroots. Is that something in which you personally believe should be a focal point?
I think that that is something that should definitely be part of the formula. I don't necessarily think that focal point is the correct word for it. I'll tell you something that you also need to think about, Eddie. As much as we love the old days, as much as we love classic wrestling, you also need to look at the day and age that we're living in right now. We're in 2012.
Right.
And with the number of cable channels that are available, with enough people that are sitting there with a remote control that can just flip those channels as quickly as they can, when you're when you are talking about a television product, you've got to come up with something that's going to, number one, catch people's attention, and number two, make them want to watch it instead of flip the channel. So we've got to do a balancing act between the classic, credible product that we want to present versus something that's going to catch people's attention, make them want to watch, and not change the channel. And if you have longer matches, obviously you're going to have a commercial before the finish of that match takes place.
Right.
And the match is going to have to be exciting enough to make people want to wait, sit through the commercial, and come back and see the ending of the match. So,
True.
you know, these days, unfortunately, you've got to consider all of those things. So, you know, when you're putting together a television product, I think it's got to be fast-paced. It's got to be colorful. You've got to have personalities on there that are somewhat recognizable. That people are going to say, "Hey, I know that guy from another television program, or from the magazine, or from another federation, perhaps." And then you can use that recognizable talent to attach your viewers, get them to stop and watch, and then you can use some established talent to give your local talent the rub. You know, there's a lot of great young up and coming NWA talent that could use the rub from people like that. You know, and that's how I think we could use top talent. You know, we could use there's a lot of top name independent talent that are not only here in the United States but in Canada,
right,
and in Mexico and in Japan that we could match up against some of the top NWA talent, you know, and some of the top NWA personalities to showcase their abilities. You know, I would love to see Tasha Simone defend the NWA World Title against some of the top ladies around the country and world. I know there's a lot of top talent in Japan. I know that the world title, the NWA, has a very big name all around the world, especially in Japan. And you know, there's just a lot of talent that we could match up against our existing talent. Look at Adam Pearce.
Yes.
You know, Adam Pearce is our NWA world, and Adam Pearce has been the standard bearer of our organization, and he has literally defended the NWA World Championship around the world.
Yes.
Against, you know, the best competitors and challengers wrestling can provide. I think Adam Pearce has done a phenomenal job carrying the NWA World Championship. In addition to the great Tasha Simone, who's had some great matches around Tennessee, Texas, all over the country. We've got NWA national champion Kahagas, the Tokyo Monster.
Right.
And not since the days of Gary Hart and the Great Kabuki have I seen such a devastating and vicious martial artist as this guy, Kahagas. And I would love to see Kahagas matched up against somebody like Jerry, or even the Great Muta.
Nice.
So I think that would be a phenomenal matchup that I would like to see. And I would like to bring in some outside talent to test our NWA talent. We've got Kevin Douglas, who is the current NWA World Junior Heavyweight Wrestling Champion.
The modern-day hero.
Kevin has been defending the World Junior Heavyweight Championship from coast to coast,
yes.
Literally. He's been crisscrossing the United States, from California to New Jersey to Texas. And Kevin has been defending the belt against such challengers as Rudy Russo and Dave Duperon, who reminds me of a young Taz, and others. I'd like to see Kevin Douglas tested against the likes of someone like the Ultimo Dragon from Mexico.
Very nice.
Or even Petey Williams from Canada. He's
Those
got
would be
some
fantastic matches. Those would be fantastic.
I would like to see Kevin Douglas against Jushin Thunder Liger, or even Taka Michinoku from Japan.
Right.
And you've even got the IWGP Junior Heavyweight Champion from New Japan Pro Wrestling, Kota Ibushi. I think a title versus title match against the NWA World Junior Heavyweight Champion would prove to be quite an interesting matchup. Chance Prophet
Right.
is another phenomenal talent
Dark Child.
right here in the NWA, and this Chance Prophet character, I've seen him in action. He's I would have to characterize him as
Eclectic.
unusual. He's unpredictable, but he's making a name for himself in the NWA.
Very true.
And in looking at Chance Prophet, I'm thinking that if and they say be careful what you wish for, because sometimes it comes true.
Right.
I think that if Kevin Sullivan and Chance Prophet ever put their heads together,
Ooh.
these guys would cut a path of destruction across the NWA that has not been seen in a long time. Chance Prophet is a former NWA national champion.
Yes, he is.
And he lost that belt in a very close match against Ringisde in Florida at an NWA Ring Warriors event that was promoted by
Howard Brody.
Yeah, Howard Brody promoted that card, and he's an excellent promoter in Florida.
Mm-hmm.
He's a longtime NWA member. Sean Tempers is an NWA talent.
The Temptation.
Phenomenal reputation. He's the current NWA North American champion. He's been very, very successful defending that title. We're hoping to get Sean into Houston in the near future.
That would be cool.
Chase Owens. We've got so many phenomenal wrestlers that are right here in the NWA that the people here in the United States and the world need to see. That's what we're hoping to do. We're hoping to develop revenue streams.
Right.
In order to redirect that money and find sponsors, perhaps, so we can develop a television product to get on the air so we can showcase some of our talent, like NWA World Women's Champion Tasha Simone. People need to see you, Tasha, on television.
I agree. And I'm going to tell you, too, Bruce, while you're saying that, I also work as an agent for two young men in the NWA right now who are going to be known to the NWA very soon. And our whole rule is old school.
And
tell us about those two.
Well, you are going to know Eric the Dragon Andrews, and you are going to know the real deal Garrett Neal. I guarantee you, Sean Tempers already knows Eric Andrews really well. Eric Andrews with a full knee brace from hip to ankle almost beat Sean Tempers. He was not even supposed to be in the ring. Garrett Neal and Kevin Douglas went almost to a time limit. Why?
Wow.
Because we believe in professional wrestling. You ask Kevin Douglas about my boys, they'll tell you. You ask Scott Summers about Eric Andrews, he'll tell you he hit him harder than any Missouri mule will ever kick him.
And
love to see. I can't. There are so many new faces, Tasha, that I can't wait to see and meet. Eddie, there's so many new wrestlers that I have not had the opportunity to see yet, that I'm anxious to see them in person, so I can meet them and they can meet me. We were talking about Chase Owens. He's been chasing Kevin Douglas for the longest time, hot on the heels of that NWA World Junior Heavyweight Champion. Chase, as you know, was trained by Ricky Morton, who's a legend in the NWA. And Chase wants that NWA World Junior Heavyweight title in the worst way. He appears quite often in NWA Smoky Mountain,
right,
which is in Knoxville, Tennessee, one of the best NWA promotions we have. Mike Searcy in Tennessee is also another one of our stellar promoters. I want to say hello to Mike Searcy. He is a good friend as well as a great promoter. But NWA Smoky Mountain has had their own 1-hour television program broadcast at 12 noon on Saturdays, which is a phenomenal time slot, for the last 8 years. So that's quite an accomplishment, I think, for NWA Smoky Mountain. I would like to congratulate them for that. Damian Wayne is another name
Right.
that's out there. He is an impressive heavyweight that's been winning a lot of matches lately. Anxious to see him in action.
Actually, he's number
Lance-
4 in the NWA top 10 right now, and he's supposed to have a match on the 29th of September
Right.
against the NWA Continental Champion, the Memphis Mofo, up in Gloucester, Virginia, if my notes are right.
For NWA Fusion, that's correct.
Yeah, we actually had Memphis Mofo on last night, and actually, Mr. Tharpe, if I may, a lot of the names that you've mentioned, everybody from Chase Owen, the Real Deal Derek Neal, Eric Andrews, Kevin Douglas, the Temptations, Sean Tempers, the Dark Child Chance Prophet, we've had the honor of having as representatives of the National Wrestling Alliance here on Beyond Ringside in previous days. A number of those interviews are still actually up on our podcast site. And also...
I'm gonna, I can't. You know something, Eddie? I need to pull up some of those archives, because I'm sure those interviews are phenomenal. And anyone who wants to learn about the background of the NWA ought to pull up those interviews and give them a listen.
And actually, Miss Simone has been on with us, I believe. You and the Women's World Champion and the World Champion, I believe, are both tied. No, actually, Tasha, I think you've beaten Pierce by 1.
That's right. And I'm way cuter than Adam, too.
Well, no kidding. But and actually, like I said, the current NWA, I believe 5-time now World Champion, Adam Pierce, has been on with us. I believe it is 4 times. We've had the opportunity here on Beyond Ringside, because a lot of us are, see, for me personally, one of the first products that I ever watched was not the then Worldwide or World Wrestling Federation. It was NWA out of Tennessee. Harry Thornton was the commentator, and I want to say it was out of Chattanooga, but it may have been Nashville. I'm trying to get my notes right, because it's been a while. It's been a number of years. Because
I would think it would have been Chattanooga.
It may have been.
I would guess.
Okay. It was either Chattanooga. No, it was either Chattanooga or Knoxville. I'll get it right in a minute. But like I said, and I remember the first match that I remember seeing was Tojo Yamamoto and Gypsy Joe taking on the young combination of George Goulas, the son, and Bobby Eaton. So, and
I got to see Bobby Eaton and George Goulas live one time in Chattanooga when I was a kid. And I forget who they wrestled, but Tojo was also there. They were, wow. Those are some names out of the past from Tennessee.
And also, if I may, another interview that we recently done, matter of fact, July 15th was the date. We had a visit from one half of the current National Wrestling Alliance World Tag Team Champions, one half of the Dark City Fight Club, Corey Chavis, here on Beyond Ringside. So, like I said, we've definitely been
Dark City Fight Club are a couple of phenomenal talents. I got to see both of them defend the NWA World Tag Team Championships against the Bunkhouse Boys in Charlotte, North Carolina, last October. And both of them are phenomenal competitors, I would have to say, and excellent representatives of the National Wrestling Alliance World Tag Team Championships.
Now, there is one thing I'd like to ask. We make the reference, and you've made the reference to a possible television product coming down the road. However, there's one itty-bitty little thing, and this one's close to my heart because of one of the things that I currently do in the industry with my home promotion. We have a television product, and I have the honor of doing commentary for them. I've always said that the right announcer, not a good announcer, not a great announcer, but the right announcer can help draw an audience in that much more to a product, because it is that announcer's responsibility and privilege to try to help build up without taking away to put the shine on themselves, because if you do it right, it's going to happen anyway. You get that credibility by doing your job right. I've always said that the right announcer or broadcast team can help build the show and captivate the audience and keep their attention and keep that build in play to where the workers who are the real stars in the ring can continue that story after the break and keep that match going all the way through. For me personally, as a commentator and as a ring announcer, I do both. Man of many hats, we'll talk off air. You get the right people in the right place, and you're going to have the product that's going to make it a little bit easier for the people in the ring. Once again, those I consider to be the real stars are the ones putting their body on the line every night of the week inside that ring. I'm a support player. I'm an associate cast member. But how intensive is it going to be for you on that search for the right broadcast combination or right broadcasters?
Well, you're when you say you're part of the support staff, you're still part of the team, and I think that I think your broadcasters are just as important a part as the wrestlers that are in the ring, even though you may not be in there taking the bumps, and getting hurt. And we certainly do appreciate the wrestlers that do put their bodies on the line. We really do appreciate that, because they are the ones that are hurting themselves to entertain the fans. So we certainly do appreciate that. And if you've ever attended Cali in Vegas, where you see some of these older wrestlers that used to come up the top rope every night, 6-7 nights a week, and now they can hardly walk.
Yeah,
you understand what we mean when we talk about putting their bodies on the line. But being part of the broadcast team is just that. It's being part of a very, very important team. And Eddie, you're absolutely correct. You got to put together the right team that's going to be interesting. It's going to be colorful. That's not going to take away from the matches in the ring, and that's critical. I mean, getting people who know the product, who are knowledgeable about wrestling and holds. I mean, if I was raised with Gordon Solie,
right?
I mean, I got to watch Gordon Solie on TV every week with my dad when I was a kid, and then I got the privilege to work with him. And I got the privilege to shoot TV with Gordon Solie and Dusty Rhodes every single Wednesday for 5 or 6 years. So that's how I learned how to do TV, by watching Eddie Graham,
right,
by watching Dusty Rhodes, and by watching Gordon Solie. So that's my experience in the TV business, and how I learned how to produce wrestling on television. But if I was putting together a wrestling broadcast team, which currently I am considering right now, because trying to think ahead of the curve, I'm already thinking television. I'm already putting pen to paper. But if he wasn't already under contract, I would love to hire Jim Ross. Phenomenal broadcaster. I've known Jim Ross many years. Jim Ross loves Gordon. I also love Gordon Solie. I would say Jim Ross would be extremely close to Gordon. I mean, if they're equals, he would be a close second. If I could afford him, and I had the right television product, and it was on the right broadcast network, because you don't want to waste talent if you're not broadcast on a medium where a lot of people will see you. But Roddy Piper would be a phenomenal television commentator.
I think he would.
He's got experience, and people recognize him, and people, I think, would listen to what he has to say. So those are some of the things that I would think of if you're thinking national quality broadcast. You'd need a broadcast team with those types of credentials if you could find them.
Now, keeping the focus on the National Wrestling Alliance, and I'm going to go in a slightly different direction. As we move into 2012, and actually the backside of 2012, 2013 on the horizon, but never overlook a single day, because every day is a brand new opportunity. We are a long way from the days of the St. Louis Wrestling Club. And we all acknowledge the fact that in a traditionalized sense, that the days of the territory are the yellow-speckled dodo bird. To a degree, they're being redefined in smaller terms. I believe you've got 4 recognized NWA promotions, whether they be member or affiliate, in the state of Tennessee. I know of 2, possibly 3 in the state of Georgia. I know of 2 in Florida. 2 in possibly 3 in Texas.
We've been doing inventory, Eddie, since the transition has taken place, and we are looking at over 50 right now in the United States. In different states, we're looking at over 50. And there may be between 30 and 40 that are already doing their own TV, either for local broadcast or for internet broadcast. And then you have the Savaldis that are doing NWA on Fire, and they've got TV all over the world.
Right.
On Ion Network. So I don't know if I anticipated your question, but there are a lot of different NWA promotions right now. Right now what we're doing is we're taking inventory of all of them. We're seeing what all of them are doing. We don't want to take anything away from them. We want to enhance them. We want to help them. We want to encourage them. We want to help them make more money if we can. But you've probably got 40 different television products on the air right now.
Right.
I want to look at each one of these television products and see what I can do, what we can do as an organization to assist our licensees, to support them, to help them make their television better. When I say when we get a national television venue for a product, one of the things that we could start doing is taking some of the top matches that showcase some of the top talent from each one of these 40 separate television products.
Beautiful.
Obviously, we have to control the quality,
right?
And make sure that the quality is there. But why couldn't we show some of the top wrestlers in Tennessee? Why couldn't we show some of the very top female wrestlers out there that are challengers for Tasha Simone's world title? Why couldn't we show some of the top wrestlers in Texas, like Houston Carson, like Jasper Davis, like Byron Wilcott, like the one-man Mike Dell, like Scott Summers, who you mentioned, Tasha, and his tag team partner Ryan Genesis. That's how we could start getting exposure for some of these NWA stars that are good, that are so starved for exposure, that have not gotten the exposure that they deserve, until now. We're trying to come up with all kind of ideas, guys, that we can do to help our talent, that we can help our licensees, so we can develop some revenue streams and make some money, and so somehow we can get a new product on the air. Because I believe that when the public sees what we have to present, they're going to get behind us, because I think they are also starved for a different product. Listen, the NWA is not out to knock anybody, Eddie. I want to make that clear.
Okay.
We love what everybody else is doing, but we're going to do something a little bit different.
Okay.
Doesn't mean we're better. Doesn't mean they're better or they're worse. We're different. We're going to come up with a different product, and we're anxious to see how the public is going to receive us.
I believe the term you might be looking for is we want to establish our own identity.
And that's exactly what we're going to do.
Now, if I may, you mentioned the word transition, and this might be a touchy issue. There is taking it from one word to two word, and if I sound like I'm tap dancing, I might be. Some might say the words transition, but how do you address, from either a personal or professional standpoint, the term hostile takeover?
Well, it didn't start out that way. I will tell you this: I joined the NWA with the most honorable of intentions. I didn't know who I was. I didn't know who the other members of the NWA were. Had not been acquainted with them. I had been out of the business for quite a number of years, and then I concentrating on my law practice, and then I got into the wrestling profession, and I got the opportunity to join NWA. So I joined the NWA with the most honorable of intentions, and then I was contacted by some members that were on the board of directors, and they expressed some interest in a new direction, and someone who had different ideas. And the first thing I asked them was, I said, well, where's your business plan? Because, could you think of any business out there trying to navigate without a roadmap?
No.
Without a business plan?
No.
Well, guess what? When I asked them for the business plan, they said, we don't have one. And as an attorney, as a businessman, I was shocked. I couldn't believe it. What? This is a worldwide business? You don't have a business plan? No. When's the last time you guys have declared a dividend? And you guys have when's the last time this company's made a profit? Never. Or not within the last 10 years, at least, I was told. And so I started to become concerned. And without getting too, I can't get too far in depth with regard to the litigation. I'm sure you understand.
Yeah.
But after I started to do some investigation, I determined that some of the practices that had been engaged in were improper. And that's why I filed a lawsuit, because I felt like I had been taken advantage of. I felt like I had been misled. And I felt like my money had been taken away from me. So I filed a lawsuit, and we were laughed at. We were told that the lawsuit was frivolous. We were told that we had no grounds, and we proved them all wrong. And in fact, the lawsuit settled, and the old company tendered the NWA brand over to us. And I submit to you, Eddie, that never would have happened if we didn't have if we didn't have some pretty heavy ammunition. So it did start out as a hostile takeover. It started out as a new NWA member trying to interject some new ideas, met with not only resistance but with hostility, and then finding out that I had been taken advantage of. And that's how it turned into a lawsuit. It just so happens that the lawsuit ended up with them turning the brand over to us. Wasn't planned like that at the beginning, but that's the way it ended up. And I've taken the responsibility of leading this organization, and I assure you I'm going to do my very best to turn it around. I've got the best of intentions. I started out with the best of intentions. I still have the best of intentions. I will tell you that I only work with people who are honorable, and those are the only types of people that I want to surround myself with and work with. And that's about all I'm going to say about that.
Okay.
If you happen to see some people that perhaps fall by the wayside, it's because I don't think they measure up to my standards of doing business.
Now,
and that's about it. Anything else I can answer you about that?
Well, actually, one word becomes two, and two can become four. Because there's been, and how you choose to take this one is completely open air. I'm asking from personal perspective, not being an investigative journalist or anything of that nature. Because I still want to, there's always been the term bandied about, not just in our business of professional wrestling, but in a number of different business and social circles. And I'm just going to lay it out there. Good Old Boy Network. There's always...
Can I say, Eddie, can I say something before Bruce even mentions this at all?
Yes.
As a professional wrestler that happens to be a woman, and I have addressed this on BeyondRingside, I address it frequently on To Be Determined. My fans have addressed it, and I'm sure that Bruce probably is aware of this. The NWA Women's World Title has been pushed to the background for a very, very long time. Not just, and I don't blame all of this on the NWA, I blame a lot of it on the girls who were very happy to sit on their butts and say, look, I've got a belt. Everybody knows, and I'm not patting myself on the back, it's my job. I am a company person 100% and have stood behind and will continue to stand behind the NWA because I believe that will be the standard bearer for what professional wrestling is supposed to be for years to come. But since this new group of people have taken over the NWA, I no longer feel like I'm the one who has to make sure people know I exist.
Right.
As a professional wrestler or as the champion for the NWA. I have not only been in contact with people who say this is what we need done, I have also felt like I am appreciated, not only as a champion, but I also know that I am a person to them, and I know that there are people within the NWA structure that are wrestlers that are so excited about this change because they know what we do in the ring is actually going to be looked at and mean something for what we can give back to the business for a change. So with that being said, not to pat you on the back, Bruce, because I know that this is just really starting to take hold on everybody right now, but that's something that's very important that the fans know, because my fans have actually attacked the NWA saying, why don't you recognize that you have a women's champion? The good old boy network had a lot to do with that.
And let me...
But right now, I'm telling you that this new group of people is recognizing that they have champions all over the place, and they're saying, we're going to let the world know we're proud of our champions.
And before
Exactly.
Go ahead.
Exactly. And the way we want to do that is we want to show you in matches against quality opponents so that people can see what you can do. That's exactly what we want to do. And I'm glad you realize the way we feel about you, Tasha, because you're absolutely right. It comes from the heart. We do care about you guys, and we do care about the NWA. Otherwise, we would not have fought the way we did for it. It would have been real easy just to say, you know what, let me just go back to my law practice. We'll just forget about wrestling and just let the NWA go. I couldn't let the NWA be treated the way it was treated, mistreated the way it was being mistreated by the people that were in charge. And so that's why myself and a couple of other very important people took the time, and it took a lot of time, and it took a lot of money, and it took a lot of work, and it was a big fight. But you know what? We've got the NWA brand, and we're going to treat it. We're going to treat it with the class and respect that it deserves now.
And I think you just answered my question. That the Good Old Boy Network does not stand.
Good old boys are gone.
Okay, because it's really a touchy subject, and I understand that because I know that this has been a very tight-lipped, and I can speak from experience. I mean, I believe we all know, we all three have a big sister. Her name is Kay. And I'll leave it at that.
Yeah. Yes.
And she's always watching. She's always paying attention. And she's always hoping we say the right thing at the right time. Sometimes we don't. And once again, the GOBN, the Good Old Boy Network, has a tendency to overstep. And as Tasha used the term very eloquently, push down the stars who step in that ring. You have great champions on the world, the North American, and the national level. You've got some great champions that are in member promotions and affiliate promotions. And if everything comes together with the vision that you're putting forth here this evening, I see great things. Now, even being in this business for as long as I've had the honor, the privilege, and the blessing to be, I still mark out for this business because I remember my roots in this business and the respect that I was not only taught, but the respect that I learned. You can teach somebody, that doesn't mean they're going to learn it. The right combination is when you have someone who wants to learn. And the first thing that everybody in this industry has to understand is you have to learn a respect for this business. And this business will stand up for you when you stand up for it the right way. I had a conversation with the chief official for the National Wrestling Alliance, Mr. Fred Richards, here on this show recently. We did a previous roundtable. And I told him about one of the belts. been a collector of different memorabilia over the years. And one of the belts that I have 5. One is very prominently and proudly displayed in my office, in my studio, the vault at the Full Range Entertainment Studios in Birmingham, is the 10 pounds of gold, is the National Wrestling Alliance World Heavyweight Championship, the one Adam Pearce refers to as Sweet Charlotte. I've even copycatted that nickname from him on more than one occasion. The reason being is I go back with that title, having been a fan of this business before I got into this business. I remember Harley Race. I remember Jack Briscoe, Tommy Rich, Ric Flair, Dusty Rhodes, the Funks, and the tradition that they brought to that belt, that they helped that belt build, and that belt helped them build. That's one of the reasons why we've had intentionally so many of the different stars and promoters from the National Wrestling Alliance here on this show. Because I don't have a personal vendetta or beef against Vincent Kennedy McMahon and WWE Titan Sport. I don't have a personal beef with Dixie Carter, Panda Energy, and Impact Wrestling. But I feel that a lot of what they've done has been a disservice to this industry that I fell in love with before I got into it. And when I see that belt right now that I'm looking at on my wall, I know that you have not only the person who wears that belt. We have our other special guest at this time, Tasha Simone, the women's world champion, the junior heavyweight champion who we've had on this show, Kevin Douglas, the modern day hero, the tag team champions, one of whom we've had on the show from the Dark City Fight Club, Corey Chavis. And I know that these individuals are stepping in the ring, stepping behind the microphone, stepping through that curtain every opportunity that they get to push that belt and the ones that they wear back to the level of respect that they deserve, that those belts have achieved and earned over the years, the belts that champions make. Belt doesn't make a champion. A champion makes the belt and makes the championship their own. That's the way I've always looked at it. And to hear the commentary that you put out there, I honestly believe that we're headed in the right direction. Whether it be a national television product coming to light that's a showcase of the different promotions, I'd love to see that. Because you've got some great stars out there. We've barely scratched the surface.
That's right.
I mean, you've got member promotions across the country. Now, one thing you brought up Pierce a little while ago. Adam Pearce, before everything happened between him and Colt, defended the National Wrestling Alliance World Heavyweight Championship in Australia for the first time in well over 2 decades.
He'll be defending he's going to be defending the NWA World Championship in Australia again, I believe, next month.
Nice.
Either October or November, I believe. He will be defending the NWA World Championship in Australia again. So he is truly a globe-trotting champion. He's defended the belt in the UK with Hammerlock. He's defended the belt in Canada, and back and forth across the United States. He really has been a fighting champion, no doubt about it. He will go down in the history of the NWA as one of the most fighting champions around. And I've got to give Adam credit for that.
And matter of fact, unless something happens between now and Saturday, September the 29th, Scrap Iron Adam Pearce is scheduled to defend the NWA World Heavyweight Championship against the Pain Train Preston Quinn at NWA Fusion in Gloucester, Virginia on September the 29th. That's also part of the card that NWA Fusion is putting on once again in Gloucester at the Gloucester Moose Lodge. Shameless plug. And speaking of shameless plugs, I want to go ahead and do this. I'm going to shift gears just a little bit because I know you've got strong ties to Texas. Matter of fact, I believe your home base is in Texas, correct?
That's correct. It is now.
And you have the ties that bind to a particular promotion out of the Lone Star State, correct?
Actually, several. Let's see where you're leading me.
Well, I was about to say, because I know that you've got some ties to NWA Texas, and I was going to ask you to take the opportunity to do a shameless plug for NWA Texas and some of the other promotions out of your home base that could always use the mentions.
Sure, yeah. We've got a phenomenal promotion out of Houston. It's actually NWA Houston. It is run by Tony Brooklyn in partnership with Tug Taylor and Chaz Taylor. And, they run the second Friday of every month. And just phenomenal matches. I've been just very impressed with this promotion. Alan Kelso promotes NWA Wrestling out of Amarillo. We have a number of promoters around Texas that are seeking to become licensees that have contacted us. So Texas, I think, is going to explode also with regard to the NWA, but we've got our focus not just on the state of Texas. We really have our focus on the rest of the United States and actually the world. We're considering every corner of the globe in terms of development of the brand.
And I
have to say, too, I'm going to put a shameless plug out.
I was about to throw it to you.
There's an NWA affiliate in, I don't know if they're a licensee or an affiliate now because of all of the changes, in the Dallas area, and their phenomenal booker was actually one of my trainers along with gentleman Chris Adams. So I definitely give them the champ stamp of approval.
And matter of fact, Tasha, while we've got you on the line, I know you've got a huge match coming up this Saturday night with NWA Top Rope in Lebanon, Tennessee. If you would, please tell everybody about it real quick.
I do, and I'm going to start it out with my favorite quote from Edgar Allan Poe. Is everything we see or seem but a dream within a dream? Now, what Edgar Allan Poe is touching on is that the common human does not know how to differentiate between dream state and reality. There's a young lady by the name of Calm Like a Bomb, Pandora, who actually thinks I tapped out to her. She needs to get real. She also made the mistake of saying she's going to take my NWA world title home to a non-NWA promotion. I am the world champion for a reason. Because I didn't invent the pile driver, I only perfected it. And when we get in the ring Saturday night, only one woman is walking out. This is no holds barred, falls, counts anywhere. And she is going to find out just exactly how important this NWA Women's World title is to me. I have bled, sweat, and shed tears for this belt, and I am not afraid to bleed, sweat, and cry again. And I am also not afraid to break her in half just to keep my belt. Because after all, at the end of the night, our byline is and always will be, our traditions build legends. She better be taking notes.
And there are two other factors involved that you have to keep, and this is, I'm telling everybody in the Tennessee area, North Alabama, Tennessee. There are other factors involved than just the two participants inside the ring, because Calm Like a Bomb Pandora is managed by the Oracle of Ominous, the Architect of Intellect, also my co-host, one of my two co-hosts here on Beyond Ringside, and that would be the Wicked Nemesis. And other factors in play are the other 2/3 of Simply Perfection. That would be Eric the Dragon Andrews. That would be the real deal Derek Neal. So there are combustible elements inside the ring and outside the ring. So for those who can make their way to Lebanon, Tennessee this Saturday night, I guarantee you it's going to explode. Pandora may be calm like a bomb, but I have a serious feeling we're going to see a nuclear meltdown this Saturday night in Lebanon.
Well, while she is calm like a bomb, she needs to remember I don't just wrestle here in the United States. I have been to Mexico as well. There comes my name, Layne Del Pile Driver, otherwise known as Queen of the Pile Driver.
Correct.
But, and this may be something that Mr. Tharpe may want to take note of when they are scheduling me against other women in the NWA. My Mexican persona is Molotov, as in Molotov cocktail, and my personality is every bit as incendiary as the name implies when I'm defending my belt.
Now, folks,
I know all about you, Miss Tasha Simone, and trust me, we're going to come up with some good challenges for your title. But I would like to take this opportunity to wish you the best in your match coming up in Lebanon, Tennessee. I know you don't need any luck, but I'll take the opportunity to wish you luck anyway. Best of luck, ma'am.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate it. And we will be sending you a tape of the match and what's left of the body parts afterwards.
I have to do this, and I know I'm going to pay the price after I say this, because I know you never forget, and I wonder if you ever forgive, Tasha.
Never.
I was there in Lebanon at NWA Top Rope the first time you faced Calm Like a Bomb Pandora, managed by the Wicked Nemesis. Hey, Wick, that's 2 mentions right there.
Mm-hmm.
I happen to know, because I do believe that I have a photograph in my collection while I was up in the crow's nest, while the referee's attention was turned.
Say it again. Say it again, Eddie.
While the referee was in...
One more time.
I'll stop there, because if the ref didn't see it, it didn't happen. Right, Tasha?
Let me explain something to you, because apparently nobody gets this. Every other champion is prey. I am never prey. I am the predator. I do everything with intent. I was taught how to play mind games in this business by gentleman Chris Adams and the flamboyant one himself, Eric Embry. I want her to have a false sense of security. I want her to believe I tapped out. Did I touch the match? Sure I did. Was anybody there to see it? No. Who won the match? Who's still the world champion?
You.
I play the most dangerous game of cat and mouse that anybody could possibly play. And I always win.
Mr. Tharpe, I want to thank you. Tasha, I want to thank you both for taking the time to come in this evening. Mr. Tharpe, I have a tradition here on the show that, along with Wicked Nemesis, that's 3, and my other tag team partner here on the show, Mark Bowman, also known as Mabo. I wish both of them could be here tonight, but because of real life circumstances, they're unable to be. And I'll never hear the end of this. I have a tradition that we've started called Last Call. It is an open floor. It is an open forum to where you can say whatever is on your mind about any topic. It can be something that we have discussed. It can be a special message directly from you that we haven't discussed, or a combination of the two. So I would like to go ahead and say, Mr. R. Bruce Tharpe, last call.
Well, first of all, I would like to thank all the fans out there for all the positive response that we have received since the transition has been announced. The support that we have received has been overwhelming. The calls, the emails, the Facebook requests that we've been getting congratulating us has been overwhelming, and I want to thank everybody for that. I want to thank my good friend Dory Funk Jr., who is one of the greatest NWA World Champions of all time, for welcoming me to the dojo in Ocala, Florida, his lovely wife Marty, and interviewing me and allowing me to make the initial announcement. And I just want to tell everybody out there that we are excited about the future. I want everybody to know that we have the best of intentions. There's been a lot of misconceptions out there. There's been a lot of misinformation, propaganda that has been out there for some people that don't like us. One of the misconceptions is that we just wanted to get this brand so we could flip it and sell it as quick as we could. I want to tell you, Eddie, Tasha, and everyone out there that this is the farthest thing from the truth. We have the highest of intentions of restoring this brand to the high position of prominence that it once held. So sit tight, fasten your seatbelts, and just keep your eyes open, because you're going to be seeing some big changes very, very soon. Eddie, thank you so much for inviting me on your program. I have really, really enjoyed the experience, And Miss Tasha Simone, it was a pleasure sharing the microphone with you today.
Thank you so much. And again, and I've already thanked you privately, but I'm going to thank you openly now. Thank you for caring enough to try and save what was great and make it great again.
Thank you very much. I really, really, really appreciate those comments.
Ladies and gentlemen, don't forget, you can keep track of the latest goings-on with the National Wrestling Alliance as an entity by going to the official website, which is located at nwawrestling.org. That's nwawrestling.org. You can also find on Twitter as well as on Facebook. Mr. Tharpe, how can people find you directly on the social networks?
Actually, I do have a Facebook page. Anybody out there can just do a search on my name and come up with my Facebook page. There's also an NWA, official NWA Facebook page. I invite everyone out there to look at that. And also go to our website, nwawrestling.org. That is the central location where you can find out anything and everything you've always wanted to know about the National Wrestling Alliance.
And allow me to state this in public and in private. Our door is always open. Anything that you've got going on that you would like to help spread the word about, we'd be more than happy to help. All you have to do, let us know. I'll give you my phone number off air and a personal email address. And like I said, our door is always open. That's more than just a phrase. Around here, that's a reality, and that's a guarantee. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to call it on this very special edition of Beyond Ringside. On behalf of my tag team partners, Mark Bowman, also known as Maybo, the Oracle of Ominous, professional wrestling manager, the Wicked Nemesis, for Tasha Simone. That's a cue, Tosh.
Oh, well, I was just letting you go right on.
Okay.
My peeps know where they can find me. I love my Bama crew. But you can also find me at tnt-radio.net every Wednesday night for the To Be Determined show. And yes, I announce just like I wrestle. No holds barred.
And you can also find her on Twitter at Tasha Simone NWA, as well as on Facebook as well. For our very special guest, Mr. R. Bruce Tharpe.
Thank you very much, Eddie. And again, thanks, Tasha. Thank you very much to all the fans out there that have taken the time to listen. Good night, everybody.
This is the Magic City Motor Mouth, Fast Eddie Layne, host and moderator for Beyond Ringside, hoping you'll join us Sundays, 6:30 Eastern, 5:30 Central, 3:30 Pacific, as we cover the hot button topics in professional wrestling, mixed martial arts, and a whole lot more right here on Beyond Ringside. Bye for now.